I love you and you are awesome. Just thought I should share that. Hello, my friends. Today I'd like to talk about two companies who have been getting real friendly with Nintendo. I am, of course, referring to Bethesda and Ubisoft. Nintendo's been getting a solid amount of third-party support from a lot of companies, but these two have stood out recently. Whereas most support comes from Japanese and/or smaller companies, Bethesda and Ubisoft hail from the land of Western AAA gaming. Other denizens of this land, like EA and Activision, generally can't be bothered to send more than a sports game or two Nintendo's way unless the money is flowing fast and easy. Bethesda and Ubisoft, though, who I will now refer to as Bethubisoft, have decided that all the money in the world is not the only amount of money they're interested in, and that sometimes it's worth it to put in a little extra elbow grease to build professional relationships, expand the fan base, and do something that's generally good for gaming. No, I'm not trying to paint these companies as perfect angels that are capable of doing no wrong simply because they're throwing Nintendo a bone now. I don't always like what they do, and I think they've got a lot of room to improve, but I certainly can't deny how important their partnerships with Nintendo are. I love what these guys have been doing, and what do I do when I love something? I talk about it. So if you would join me, let's discuss the many benefits of Nintendo's very friendly relationship with Bethesda and Ubisoft, who I've decided I will actually not refer to as Bethubisoft, because that's really stupid. Due to the recent Doom Eternal announcement, I think it makes sense to start with Bethesda, because they're doing it. They're stinking doing it. They are bringing Doom Eternal to the Switch. In case you didn't know, Doom is a game that released to huge critical acclaim back in 2016 and came to the Switch just last year. If you haven't seen my review, you can click the card popping up in the corner right now, but spoiler alert, I absolutely loved it. I'm not really a huge fan of shooters, but the insanely smooth and satisfying gameplay mixed with the almost Metroid-like exploration elements made Doom a big winner in Arlo's book. And let me tell you, the follow-up, Doom Eternal, looks like one heck of a sequel. Doesn't really have the same impact when you say heck, does it? Seriously though, you know how sometimes you play a game and you love it a ton, and then you see a trailer or a demo or whatever for the sequel, and it just looks better and more awesome and amazing in every conceivable way? Like it's just the perfect sequel? Doom Eternal is like that. If I might digress a little, there are all these new guns, and this shoulder-mounted flamethrower, and your melee weapon is like a huge knife, and there are new permanent power-ups, and you can invade other players' games and fight them as demons, and the environments are huge and really varied and super creative, and dude, the movement. You can grapple onto guys and launch yourself super high, and you got this new dash now, so you can alter your momentum whenever you want, so you're just flying all over the place. Okay, sorry, this isn't actually the point I want to make here. Really, the game just looks amazing. I cannot wait to get my hands on it. Back on the real subject though, we all knew the game would come, like in general. 2016's Doom left off on something of a cliffhanger, paving the way for the sequel, and due to Doom's success, this sequel was basically guaranteed. And I knew that it would end up being bigger and better than its predecessor. Doom runs on Switch, but it's such a close thing that I really didn't expect the sequel to come to Switch as well. It would be even more difficult to port, plus I wasn't sure how well the first one even sold. See, Skyrim on Switch, I knew that would probably do pretty well. That's a game that a lot of Nintendo fans can probably get behind. Doom, though, was a bit riskier. It took more work to port, and its graphic nature kinda goes against the traditional Nintendo style. Bethesda did it anyway, though, and I thought, awesome. Bethesda is throwing Nintendo a bone and showing the rest of the industry how you can put AAA 8th gen games on Switch and how it's okay, Switch won't bite. And I thought that would be it for Bethesda until Doom could launch and they could get some sales numbers to see if it would be worth it financially to port more games. But then before the big day could even come, they announced Wolfenstein 2, and that was a new game. It still came to Switch later than the other systems, but the gap was much smaller than it was with Doom. So finally, Doom came out, and Wolfenstein 2 came out, and at that point, I didn't really know if the sales were good or if Bethesda was happy with the way things turned out, but my pessimistic self thought, surely, the ride must be over. Bethesda chummed up with Nintendo for a while, gave them a good little injection of support. It's probably time for them to sit back and see how the games perform for a good while before committing to another project, right? Wait and see if any other big companies get in on this action first? Wrong! Doom Eternal gets its full reveal at QuakeCon, and both the official Twitter accounts for Doom and Panic Button confirmed that yes, it's coming to Switch! Again, if you didn't know, Panic Button is the studio responsible for porting both Doom 2016 and Wolfenstein 2 to Switch, and their ability to get such beautiful games running on such teeny-weeny hardware has garnered praise from far and wide. I mean, these guys must be wizards or something. Right now, the big question is, will the game launch on all systems simultaneously simultaneously, or will the Switch version get delayed as was the case with Wolfenstein? It's really hard to say because none of the versions have a release date yet, not even a window other than 2019. I'm certainly not going to get my hopes up here, but I'm really hoping for a simultaneous launch. These other ports were already such important steps in getting the Switch some third-party cred, but launching day and date would be the final step to being a regular old straight-up multi-platform third-party release. The Switch would be one of the big kids. Yeah, I got this game too, same as everyone else, no big deal. One thing the Switch port's got going for it is that Panic Button has got a long time before release, so maybe with the extra hours to put in, there won't be a delay. Though, on the other hand, for all we know, they won't be able to get a lot of work done on it until it's finished. I mean, how do you port a game that's not even done yet? I don't know how development on this game is going, so I guess it really could go either way. Whatever happens though, this game really does feel like a big, important chapter in this whole Bethesda Switch support story. Like I said, there was a point when I thought they would have been completely within their right to stop and see how things develop. 2 points, in fact. But the announcement of Doom Eternal made me realize that they're really in it now. I mean, there's nothing saying that this won't be their last Switch game, or their last one for a while or whatever. You never really know what they'll do, but it certainly feels like an extra big deal. This was an extra big step. It is clear that Bethesda really likes the Switch, and they want to keep putting their games on it. As for their reasons, I can only think of 2 potential ones. The first is, obviously, that their games are selling well. I have no idea how much they're investing into these ports, and I don't really have a clear picture of how much these ports are selling either, but it's at least possible that Bethesda is happy with the sales, and that putting more games on the system will make them more money, plain and simple. If that's not the reason though, or at least not the only reason, the only other thing I can think of is that they're pouring into that Nintendo ecosystem to try to get things moving a little faster. You know that whole conundrum with game systems. No one puts games on a system because no one knows how they'll sell, so the system doesn't sell, so no one puts games on it, so it doesn't sell. Rinse and repeat until the system is dead. And especially after the Wii U, I can definitely see why a lot of companies were a little hesitant to throw everything they had at the Switch. No one really knew for sure how well it would do. Right now it's doing really well, though for whatever reason there's still a fair amount of hesitating going on from various parties, not sure why. Bethesda, though, probably knew that by taking the risk and porting their games over to the system, they make that system more attractive. They lead by example, because if the system has more games, especially mature AAA third-party games, it's going to be more attractive to buyers, and more buyers eventually means that Bethesda's games will sell more on that platform, and if they're lucky, they end up with a new little honeypot they never had access to before. Sure, it's a risk. Maybe the games all do terribly. Maybe they don't make the Switch look any better and none of this affects sales. But it's a calculated risk. It's one that could end up paying off down the line. I don't know if any of that exactly applies to Bethesda and their relationship with Nintendo, but it certainly seems possible. And whether it's that or the games are simply selling well enough, I'm extremely thankful for the support they're giving. As I've said in the past, anyone supporting the Switch sets an example. The more people in the pool, the better that pool looks. Wait, that's a terrible example. Pools are always better if you're alone. The more pepperoni on a pizza, the better that pizza looks. Much better. Now, support might be good right now, but let's remember that it's still not full support. The Switch still hasn't made it onto Bethesda's ultimate list of platforms to develop for, and realistically, it probably never will. So much extra work has to go into Switch ports that plenty of Bethesda's recent and upcoming games are still no-shows. The open world Rage 2, for example, doesn't seem super likely, Fallout's still a no-show, and while I feel like Prey would be a great fit, there's no word on that either. Hey, maybe they'll prove me wrong and get Panic Button working full-time on Bethesda Switch ports, but I'm doubtful, especially considering that this whole porting business very well might go out the window come 2020 when Gen 9 starts up. I would say best case scenario is that once the company launches headfirst into Gen 9 and Switch ports are, I'm assuming, off the table, they could keep porting over Gen 8 games to help further fill out that library. Then, when the next iteration of Switch comes along, whether it's a more powerful quote-unquote Switch Pro or a proper Switch 2, maybe they can go back to porting over the big stuff. I know that's looking fairly far into the future, and you never know with these things, but we can at least hope that the company continues to be chummy with Nintendo. Because ports of much older games from last gen and back are great, but much more important are current gen multiplats. Those come with so much more trust and confidence, and of course, the newer a game is, the more relevant it is. Getting the same big games as the other systems makes the Switch look so much more attractive to potential buyers. But let's change gears and talk about Ubisoft. Whereas Bethesda's relationship with Nintendo is pretty new and really just just involves Switch ports, Ubi's relationship is much more unique and goes further back. The company was eager to hop on the motion control wagon, equipping the Wii with a Rabbids game right out the gate. Then they threw a lot of support at the Wii U. Rayman Legends was going to be an exclusive and a launch title before getting delayed to go multi-platform, which was pretty lame, not gonna lie. But besides that, things were great. Ubi developed Zombie U, which might not feel like it now, but at the time was a fairly big deal. A half-hearted port would find its way to other systems years down the line, but the game's soul was with the Wii U. This was not only a system exclusive, but a gory M-rated one. That was quite the risk Ubisoft took, and I think they still deserve some credit for that. Then on top of Zombie U, they brought their two most recent Assassin's Creed games to the system, as well as the usual casual stuff you'd expect like Just Dance. Overall, pretty darn nice if you ask me, and more than most, if not all, other big companies were doing. And that, of course, brings us to the Switch. Ubisoft's support of the system has been great, but also a little weird when you think about it. Supporting a system can mean two things: porting multi-platform games to it, or developing exclusive games for it. The latter is obviously a lot riskier and therefore more rare. I mean, if you're gonna go through the trouble of making a game, why would you only want to sell it to one audience instead of 3 or 4? But what's funny is that Ubi hasn't really ported a lot of games over, yet they've made an exclusive. They've given the most difficult kind of support, and so far have just shrugged their shoulders when it comes to the easier one. Rayman Legends is probably the most notable port so far, and I'm really surprised that we haven't gotten at least one Assassin's Creed game. I mean, all they have to do is put one to see if the audience is there, and they've got so many last-gen options that would run on Switch without any problems. Or even a Tom Clancy game or something. Watch Dogs, the HD Beyond Good and Evil remaster, anything. It's possible that they're working on stuff like that as we speak, or maybe the lukewarm sales of Zombie U led them to believe that mature titles weren't really worth putting on Nintendo consoles. I don't know, it's a little disappointing. I want me some Black Flag so bad. But hey, as I've said in the past, the importance of Mario and Rabbids can't be overstated. The exclusive is the holy grail of console support, and their exclusive even has Mario characters in it, which secured its spot as an absolute forever exclusive and probably helped it reach a lot more customers. The post-launch support for the game has been amazing too. Donkey Kong Adventure is easily one of the meatiest pieces of DLC I've ever seen for the price. They could have just pushed out another simple collection of challenges or something, but they elected instead to craft a whole new campaign. A long one! The latest development in this love story, though, is StarLink Battle for Atlas. The game is a multiplat, so it's not exclusive or anything. However, at E3 we learned that the Switch version of the game will give players the option to play as Starmanald H. Foxenstein, or as you may know him, Star Fox. And it's a Toys to Life game, so you can even get a little toy Arwing to plug into the game. And can I just say, as something of an aside, I hate how much more this makes me want to play the game. I don't want to get super jazzed on a game just because it's got a Nintendo character in it, like a kid buying a towel or something just because it's got Iron Man's face stamped on it. But it feels like that's what's happening here. I always thought the game looked pretty cool, but now I'm just like, I need this. And I hate that. But anyway, the simple fact that Star Fox will be in the game isn't the most important thing here, in the same way that Mario and Rabbids just existing isn't the most important thing. When I look at all this, I see a business relationship that goes further than a handshake and 2 signatures on a contract. Bethesda is throwing a ton of support at Nintendo, and I referred to that as being chummy, but honestly, if there's any real chumminess going on, it's between Nintendo and Ubisoft. I mean, they're treating each other like best buds. You can see it in how closely they work together to make Mario and Rabbids, and in the pride both parties showed when presenting it. You can see it in the love the team put into the Donkey Kong Adventure DLC, all the rich details and inside jokes. And you can most certainly see it in the E3 presentation where they revealed Star Fox in StarLink. They made this big show out of giving Shigeru Miyamoto the very first Arwing prototype. They did everything they could to honor him and thank him for letting them borrow Fox for their game. I doubt Shiggy and Yves Guillemot are regularly drinking beers at football games and going on Ferris wheel rides together, but as far as business acquaintances go, these guys are buds. They clearly have a huge amount of respect for each other, and they love working together on stuff like this. So what does this all mean from a practical standpoint? Well, you never know exactly what form Ubi's support will look like going forward. It could be more exclusives, it could be ports, it could be more fun cameo stuff like with StarLink. But whatever the case, this relationship they have is a really good thing. Sometimes partnerships can dry up. Like I said earlier, companies like EA only go where the money is easy. In fact, you might remember how EA struck up what they described as an unprecedented partnership with Nintendo when the Wii U launched. Yeah, that lasted all of 4 seconds before they jumped ship at the first whiff of smoke. But it's obvious that Ubisoft is very happy with their relationship with Nintendo. They threw a lot at the Wii U, and when that didn't exactly work, they came back anyway with support for the Switch. Unless some Ubisoft person at an inter-office Christmas soiree accidentally insults Shiggy's dog's cashmere sweater or something and everything falls apart, they're gonna keep working together. And now that the ice has been broken in terms of Ubi developing games with Nintendo characters, the sky's the limit. What's next? An Assassin's Creed game where you can play as Sheik? For Honor DLC with all Zelda races? A Mario Kart Trials crossover? Tom Clancy's Pikmin adventure? I would be pretty surprised if any of those didn't happen. We can certainly hope that Nintendo continues to get all this love from Ubisoft. I changed my mind again, that name is awesome. And we can keep our fingers extra crossed and wood extra knocked on that more companies, big and small, keep jumping on board as well. Things are looking good, but you know us Switch owners, we want more. Always more. Hey, Blizzard just announced Diablo 3. Did you see that? That's pretty cool. It's still just the one game from the company so far. Where on earth is Hearthfire? I mean, come on. But what stands out is the silly little video they did to announce it. Look at that. More of that cheesy, chummy stuff. That's good. Keep it coming. I don't know if this will lead to more Blizzard support, but it's a good start. Maybe next Bill Shrinan and Ken Levine will dress up like Goombas to announce the BioShock collection on Switch. Man can dream. So what do you guys think about all this? Do you like what's happening between Nintendo and these other companies? Are you excited about the future of third-party support on the system? And on a scale from yes to 10, how much do you want to play Fallout on your Switch? The correct answer is thumbs up.